Welcome to Therapy is Dope with Alicia.
And Julie, let's make self help fun again. No, seriously, laughter is the best medicine.
Come and join us as we introduce new ways of thinking and being.
And hopefully get you laughing along the way.
Hello, guys. We have a real fun topic today.
I'm really excited about talking about this, actually.
Me too, because I don't think people realize, I guess, I don't know what we should call it necessarily. We were talking about it earlier, and I called it manipulation, but Julie called it being easily influenced. So it's something along those lines, somewhere in between there. But I don't think people realize how easy it is to manipulate or influence anybody.
Or be manipulated. And my thing is not just influence, but it's because you have impressions that are left in your life that you don't even know that are in your life.
Right. And there's a lot of research that shows that we don't know the difference between what actually happened and what we've seen a picture of, because those things kind of blur together in our minds. And so it's hard for us to differentiate what we've actually experienced. And then there's also research that kind of shows that if somebody pressures you into saying something enough, then eventually you'll say it and eventually you can be convinced that it's true. And I don't know if you ever watched The Making of a Murderer, I think it was called.
Oh no, I heard about it.
Oh my God, it was so interesting because it was really hard to tell what was going on. And there was footage of like the cops interviewing this one guy, and he couldn't keep his story straight. He was just like saying the same thing over and over. And then the cops kind of like got him to admit that he did something that he later claimed he actually didn't do.
Mm.
So that kind of stuff can happen. Like we're that easily influenced. And in a domestic violence situation, for example, a person can be convinced that they're stupid or worthless or whatever, and we've talked about that before, as far as like we get trained to think about ourselves in a certain way based on our environment growing up, and then that stays with us for a long time, and then we have to retrain ourselves essentially to think about things differently.
Yeah, unlearning what you've learned may be the key to freedom sometimes, like mental freedom, emotional freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. So but I mean it even goes down to like the smallest things, like the colors of Christmas are the colors of Christmas because green tends to inspire people to spend more money.
No,
Yes,
no,
the original color of Christmas was blue.
no, what?
Blue and white was the original Christmas color, and we changed it.
That is crazy. Do you know what I actually heard recently? And I have no fact behind this, but uh, I heard that blue was supposed to be a female color, feminine color, and red was masculine color, right? Because red is passion, blood, more of the masculine side, while the blue was more like Cinderella, those old school colors. She's actually wearing a blue dress, not a pink dress, right? And the blues were calming, loyalty, and represented those things. And marketing popped in, probably 80s or I don't know when, but they popped in and said, okay, let's identify a certain color for each gender so we could sell things more.
Mm, I believe that. I do
Yeah.
believe that.
So now we can't differentiate if that was told to us, like you said, like the picture, or is that something that we felt or something that we felt that was real?
Yeah. And so, the same thing can occur in religion. Religion can be used as a manipulation tactic, and it has in politics for sure, forever. Um, Culture is another one where like we're raised to believe a certain thing. Like, for example, Hispanic culture, you have to take care of your mother. That's your job. You want someone to take care of you when you're old, take care of your mother. And that is like a belief system that is dogmatic for a lot of people. Like that's just the way it has to be. And yet there are many cultures that do things a variety of different ways. So we are very easily influenced, and yet we're very judgmental of other people for their belief systems. And for even like back in 2020, people kept saying like, don't be a sheep, don't be a follower, think for yourself. Like, who's really thinking for themselves is what I want to know.
Yeah, because we only know what we've been told, been taught, and we've lived this life, the same life forever. So it's hard to unlearn. And then also where you know how when I was really depressed and I was in the journey of trying to find myself, I kept asking myself and my therapist at the time, how do I know that I want that versus what I've been told that I want that? And like but at the end of the day, like that's a still legit question. How do you I know that's actually me, not a seed that was planted a long time ago and conditioned over and over and over again, right? Because my surroundings condition like, yes, do that. Yes, do it. So everybody, everybody around you wants you to do that, wants you to be that, wants you to portray that. So let's say this person is bends over backwards for everybody and spreads herself super thin, and all she does is help everybody around her, right?
Sounds like you. Is this a true story?
Yeah, it is a true story. So then I was just doing everything for everybody, but those people that I was doing things for didn't want me to stop. So in reality, when I started saying, "Hey, I'm not going to do that anymore," there was a lot of pushback.
Of course. Oh yeah, people do not like when you switch things up on them. Mm-mm.
So it was like, okay, what do I want this? You know, or is this what I was told that you know?
Yeah. Um, a lot of people ask me, how do I even know, this is like maybe going a little too deep here, but people ask me like, how do I even know who I am?
Yeah.
And it's like, it is hard to tease out because we're not our thoughts, we're not our behaviors, we're not our emotions. So what the
What
fuck
are we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not our genetics, and we're not just our environment. So shit, how do we define ourselves? And typically what I suggest people do is that they look at their strengths and they look at their value system. What is it that's important to you? What makes you happy? And what are you good at? Those are the things that are going to kind of be consistent in your life, I think, over time.
Oh, repeat those. Repeat those. Those are good.
Crap, I already forgot what I said.
For the
Your
viewers,
value system. Your
what you're
value
good at,
system. What you're good at.
or what makes you happy.
And what makes you happy. Yeah.
But at the same time, what makes you happy? Is it really what makes you happy? What selfishly makes you happy?
I mean, you could say that it's selfish, but it's interesting because I think a lot of people derive great pleasure from making other people's lives better. It's just, how are you making other people's lives better? Are you feeding them? Are you helping them find insurance? Are you
That's so
helping them
random.
find a great skincare line? Are you making them feel better about themselves physically? I feel like most jobs even are us like helping other people in some way.
Oh, that's true. So also, what about that savior complex when people help people because it makes them feel good or they think they should, or it's like, again, the impression that they left a long time ago. So let's say if they were a kid and their parents said, "Oh, you're so helpful. I love that you're so helpful." And it's planted that, oh my God, I feel so good when I helped my mom and she made me feel so good. Now I want to help everybody. But you end up helping people because it makes you feel good, but does it? I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird.
Well, what I try to tell my clients is like, there's nothing wrong with helping people. What the wrong part is if you're killing yourself in the process. So, for example, if you're sick and you want me to bring you soup, if it's like on my way home to stop and get soup and bring it to you, then yeah, and that would bring me great joy to be able to give you soup help you feel better. But if you're all the way on the other side of town and the soup that you want is all the way on the other side of town, and it's going to take me 3 hours to get your soup to you and then get back home,
Yeah.
I can't do that. I don't have enough time to do that. And that's going to stress me the hell out. So that's where I have to say no. Like, it's got to be like within reason that I can help you.
No, I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of my
What if,
rule of thumb.
yeah, but what if that person works part-time or something, right? So they have the afternoon free, or they have the morning free, or they have the weekends free, and they don't have plans every weekend. So that 3-hour drive isn't that big of a deal for them. Would you still say that seems a little crazy, even if you have, let's say you have 6 hours and you have nothing to do? It's like, oh, I might as well do it. That would you still recommend them doing that?
I would recommend it if they wanted to and it didn't feel like a big deal. That's what I always tell them. If they're like, yeah, I have time, I could do it, but I really don't want to put the miles on my car, or I don't have the gas money right now, or I'm really tired and I just want to lay in bed right now, then I would tell them, do what you feel like you need to do. Don't feel like you have to go do this thing for this person just because they asked. If you're tired and you want to be in bed, be in bed. That's what you need to do.
So if you feel obligation connected to your helping, to your help, that's when you should say, hey, maybe helping this in this situation is hurting me.
I mean, maybe that is a good way to think about it, but I feel obligated for all kinds of things.
That's, join the club, girlfriend.
Like, sometimes even, this is sad to admit, but sometimes even like going to dinner with my friends feels like an obligation. Like, ugh, I don't want to do this, I just have to do it. And then usually when I get there, if it's worth it and I'm like, oh God, I'm so happy I did that. But sometimes, yeah, it just feels like another item of like something I have to do.
It reminds me, it's like, okay, so next time I go to dinner with you, I'm like, does Alicia really want to do this? God.
Well, I probably do because you're visiting. You're
Yeah,
not
that's true.
like, I'm not like meeting up with you after work. You know what I mean?
But it feels like, yeah, the way you described it feels like the way I feel about the gym, I'm like,
Uh,
wah, wah. But then when after the gym, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad we did that.
yeah, so nice, wasn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, I get it. That's true. But I wonder, maybe you could gauge it. If you're bringing the soup to them, you're like thinking, God shit, I'm adding these miles. I have to go get gas now to get out of this. So annoying, blah, blah. Then after you go, man, that felt really good. I'm really glad I did it. Should that be a sign?
I don't know, because I think it almost always feels good to help, but we have to consider the toll that it's taking on us. And if it's taking too much of a toll, then it doesn't matter who the person is, it's not worth it. It could be freaking Obama.
I'd help Obama.
I would
You need
totally
soup?
get soup for Obama too. Yeah. Isn't that bad? That's terrible.
Not so.
Oh, hell no. I would spill some soup on him on accident. Oh.
No, but I think, see, so why does bringing soup to someone and then afterwards feeling good about it, right? Or being resentful while you're bringing the soup, but afterwards I feel good about it, is different from feeling resentful before going to dinner with friends and feeling good about it afterwards, or going to the gym and feeling good. Why are those situations different to you?
Ooh, good question. Uh, I don't know the answer to that right now. I think um well, actually, you know what? Here it is. Because one of them is for me and one of them is for someone else.
Yes, that's actually, I was thinking about that. I was like, I wonder why it felt differently. Like I agreed with you, but I was like, I wonder why I agreed with you so quickly. Like those the outcomes were the same. The outcome was, I'm happy. This feels good. I'm glad I did it. But the actual action was like, the gym is, you're not exercising for someone else. You know what I mean? There's no way you're not lifting the dumbbells so somebody else could lose weight and get stronger.
That's
Or
true.
you're not going to, or actually the dinner might be a situation where you're like, hey, you're not doing it for you, because you might go so because someone was like, please, please, please go,
Oh,
please, those
yeah.
situations. And
Yeah.
afterwards you go, oh, I'm glad I went, but really you're not going for you.
Yeah.
Or you could be going for you, be like, oh, I really needed that because I had such a busy week, or I had such a crazy week. I needed to laugh like that.
Yeah. 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 So I think, I don't know how we got on this, but I definitely think prioritizing yourself has to be important in life, period. My client was lecturing me today because I told him that we let somebody stay with us who was not in a healthy place, and it just didn't work out long term. And he was like, "What? I can't believe you would do that. You of all people know better than that." And I was like, "Excuse me." It turned into a lecture for me. But he wasn't wrong that we do have to be. I ignorantly offered uh to help in this situation, thinking that it was going to help, and it didn't. And so when it didn't, we put an end date on it.
Did you think that the person was actually going to say yes, take on the offer? Was that one of those, hey, we'll do lunch soon? One of those offers that, hopefully they don't say yes. Was that
Oh no. No, I wanted the person to come because they really weren't doing well, and I thought a change of environment would make a difference.
oh,
And it
okay.
really didn't, as it turned out. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. So
Right.
there we go.
So talking about the impressions. So easily manipulated. Easily manipulated, that helpfulness actually does, because people could really manipulate you to help them.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much manipulation that goes on. So much manipulation.
And we kind of want to be bought though. There's so much advertising, right?
Yeah.
You said, and branding, and think about it, this companies manipulate us to spend money to buy their clothes, to advertise for them, and have like their logo on a shirt that we are advertising for them for free. Not even for free, we're paying them to advertise for them by wearing these things.
Yeah. It's wild, right?
It's crazy.
But we give value to these things. Like we say a Coach label is more expensive than an Adidas label.
Mm.
We decide these things. And maybe, I'm sure quality comes into play a little bit, but not entirely.
No, I agree. There's a lot of places where it's like, why did I spend, $100 on this when I could get this for $30 very easily?
Yeah.
Very easily.
Yeah, and it's it's wild because I took a class once on life coaching. I think I told you about this. And um the lady said, you have to know your worth. You have to know your worth, and you have to charge what you're worth. And when I asked her her price point for an individual session, it was $600 an hour. And I was like, excuse me, that's your worth? But she also said in the course that if you charge more, people perceive that you're worth it. People think that because they're paying more, you must have more experience, or you must be better at it, or you must know something special. And so it's the same for any other service. When you start charging more, people just assume that the product is worth it.
Yeah. And it's goes down to like that, it's called expectation theory, right?
Ooh,
And
do tell.
there's this guy that he took a bunch of these pills, I guess, right? Then he went to the hospital and he felt really ill and all that. He's like, I accidentally took these pills and I feel so sick. And literally when they were running his blood and checking his vitals, it was it was like super high blood pressure, or this, it was dangerously bad, right? Then they called his doctor, and his doctor was like, oh no, he's part of a study. We're doing study random study, so maybe he's allergic to it. Let me look at his file. Looked at his file, realized he took a bunch of placebo pills.
Oh,
After he was told he took those placebo pills, his vital signs started coming back immediately.
this
So
gets into a whole other thing.
it's what you believe. Like what Eddie Henry Ford has a very famous quote: "If you think you can't, or you think you can, you're right."
Yes. Now that gets into a whole other aspect of this thing because again, so if we can accept number one that we're very easily manipulated, like I can't even watch an infomercial. I'm not over here talking shit, okay? The truth is every infomercial I'm like, shit, do I need this? I think I do. I think I need this. Salespeople coming to my door, forget it. I don't talk to them. Sebastian has to talk to them because I'm like, yes, you're right. I need a new alarm system. So I am not saying that I am beyond this by any means. Do not think that. But we have to be honest with ourselves and accept that, okay, yes, I think you probably, I don't know if your parents said this to you or not actually, but when I was younger, my parents would say, you are who you hang around. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, that's not true. I'm my own person. Blah, blah, blah. No, you're not, bitch. No, you're not. You're not your own person. You are who you hang around. That is true. You may not necessarily do everything that your friends are doing, but eventually you probably will.
That is true. If it's around you, might do. I agree.
Even if you don't, if they're doing something they're not supposed to and they get caught, you're going down with them. So
Yeah. And so funny. I use this so often, but I think Kanye said this, but he said, how do you stay faithful in a room full of hoes? He said,
ah,
and they're like, don't be in the room, you know?
yes. Actually, there was a boyfriend that I had, and I asked him once, like, if the wind blows and your penis gets aroused, how do you stay faithful in a relationship? Because that's not how it works for us. Like, we at least have to go over a speed bump. No, I'm just I'm kidding.
Aw.
But men are, generally speaking, more easily aroused than women. So I was like, how does any dude stay faithful to anyone? And he was like, it's very easy. You just don't put yourself in situations where that's going to happen. And I was like, that's hot.
Ooh, that's hot. Ooh, loyalty? Give me some of that.
But, the point is just that our environment matters. We're very easily influenced. And okay, if our minds are, if we know this about ourselves, we can better protect ourselves, but we can also be aware that we can use our minds to manipulate ourselves in a positive way. And that sounds insane. And I do realize that, but it is exactly what we need to do to feel happy in life.
I 1000% agree with you. I remember coming out of a terrible breakup, and literally my world was crushed in a million pieces, right? And I was like, I would just never be happy again. And I would cry. I would constantly cry again. I felt like I was maybe dehydrated all the time because there was tears falling from my eyes.
Oh, yeah.
All and I had to go to work, and I remember, and I was manager, at work. So I remember I had to be a leader of my team. So what I did was, and I just read this so I read this in an article where China was, they were practicing how to smile for the Olympics, because they're hosting Olympics for the first time, right? So they
That's
oh
hilarious. They had to
yeah,
practice it.
they had to practice smile, yeah, because they had to smile like 10 hours a day. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
smile and ear to ear, show all your teeth and everything, right? So they would bite chopsticks so that they could train their mouth to be in that shape for like 10 hours without being it without I guess without cramping or whatever, right? Because you had to train those muscles. So I was thinking, okay, how do I manipulate my brain to produce some endorphins, even though I'm fucking depressed as shit right now? So
Mm.
I would actually put a pencil or chopstick in my mouth to force myself to smile, to create endorphins in my brain so I could get through a work day.
You know, that's interesting that you say that because I remember a research article talking about if you smile, if someone makes you smile, the smile lingers.
Yeah.
So we can increase our own happiness by forcing ourselves or faking a smile even.
Got to force myself to smile, to manipulate myself, to tell myself that, no, you're happy. You'll be fine. But in reality, I didn't think I was fine. I didn't think I was ever going to be fine.
Oh, yeah, we all get there. Um, that reminds me too of another client of mine who manipulates himself into going to the gym. He tells himself, "You don't have a choice. You have to go." And it works for him. He's like, "Yep, I got to get up. I got to go."
Man, I
I
should.
mean, I personally don't know that I can do that, but he's done it and it's worked really well for him. And like, you know, the research also shows that optimists are happier people in general, but optimists are also a little bit more delusional according to the research. Um, Pessimists generally have a more realistic perspective about the world, but optimists are happier. So, in other words, we have to lie to ourselves and tell ourselves everything's going to be fine. This is going to be great. It's going to work out. And then we're happier.
Yeah. It's crazy what the manipulation, like, you're bringing these stories and basically what you said, those case studies that people, the brain can't tell the difference between a picture or real life. So like Sean Anker is a motivational speaker and writer, and I love him to death. And he graduated from Yale, and he taught like happiness classes. So he came out with a book
Ooh.
amongst a bunch of things. And so he always starts his talks with the story about his sister. So his sister's 5 years old, and she's on the top bunk, right? And she's playing with her little My Little Pony figurines or whatever. And he's on the bottom, and he's playing with his. I guess he said he was in the middle of a battle, so he goes on top of the bunk, where the where the bad guys are, pushes her off. She breaks her arm when she falls. She breaks her arm. She's about to cry. She's staring at him. She's like about to wail, and he knows. He's like, my parents are only 30 feet away. I'm gonna get in trouble. So he looks at her and goes, oh my God, Amy. And she goes, what? You jumped over there like a unicorn, like a My Little Pony, whatever. And she's like, I did? And he manipulated her enough not to scream in pain at that moment. But think about what you're doing to yourself, right? You're telling these stories, and she goes, I did, didn't I? She's like, you landed on all fours like a unicorn, like you've always been. Maybe you have a unicorn inside of you. And she goes, maybe I do. You know what I mean? Like, those are the stories that we just have to tell us. And it sounds ridiculous, but you just have to say, hey, I'm good enough. Today, I'm good enough. I can do it. When every cell in your body is telling you you can't, you're ugly, you're slow, you're stupid, you're not rich enough, you're not whatever. What if you just told yourself, yes, today I'm skinny enough. Today I'm pretty enough. Today I'm wealthy enough. Today I'm whatever enough.
I have noticed no one gets manipulated more than little kids. And like childhood is all about manipulation, essentially. And I've noticed like doctors and nurses and teachers are like the absolute best at it. And they're so creative with like the strategies that they use. But the crazy part is these strategies work for us as adults too. Like my daughter will say to me, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can. And I'm like, yeah, you can. Just get up there and try it. And she's like, no, I can't do it. And then I distract her and talk to her about something else, and she does it. And I'm like, oh, look, you just did it. That's how we work too. We're like, I can't give this speech. I'm so nervous. I can't get in front of all these people and talk. And then we just don't think about it, or we find some strategy to distract ourselves and we just freaking do it. Some people fidget with something. Some people refuse to think about it until it's the moment of the thing. Some people practice to death so that they know what they're talking about. There's a million different ways, but we all find a way and then we do it anyway.
Mm.
We manipulate ourselves into doing it despite our emotion.
So where do we, let's say if I'm in a bad place in my life and I'm going, I lost my job. Uh, my boyfriend broke up with me. I got in a fight with my mom. Whatever it is, right? And you're at home and you're sad and you're how do you get out of that story?
That's a good question. I mean, there's so many ways, and what works for one person may not work for another. Uh, and sometimes I really believe, and this is something that I don't think we talk about enough either, is that we need other people to help us sometimes. Sometimes we really can't get out of our own headspace. Actually, today I was doing a training on psilocybin mushrooms,
Mm.
and they were talking about how they can help create new neural pathways to get you out of being stuck in whatever headspace you've been stuck in. Because that's something that happens, is that we get so accustomed to being anxious, or we get so accustomed to being depressed, that we sort of like replay those pathways over and over again, and then we can't get out of them. And so psilocybin then kind of like helps create other neural pathways to expand the potential for thinking about things in another way.
So when you think about that, when is it like a muscle where it gets stronger and stronger, that pathway? Like let's say it's like I'm ugly and I tell myself I'm ugly and then I just tell myself so that pathway gets stronger and stronger. Does that
Yeah, I
work?
mean that's basically, I know that's not what we're talking about today, but that's basically how addiction works. Like, I get anxious, I drink, and now I have created this pathway in my brain that if I get anxious, I must drink. And so then it becomes very automatic, like, oh, I'm feeling anxious, let me drink. Oh, I'm feeling anxious, let me drink. And
Oh,
then we are essentially like deepening that groove in our brain. That's the way that I think about it, like the Grand Canyon. We're
oh,
like wearing down that pathway and like deeply ingraining it in our way of being.
okay.
And then it becomes really hard to change it, because this is what I know, this is what I do, this is my norm.
Okay, so when you going back to the whole thing here, right, the case study, right? Seeing a picture and thinking and not knowing the difference between a picture and what is real life. So if I am really sad, like, right, and I'm just desperate to get out of it, I could start by looking at a picture or start by, putting a pencil, biting a pencil so you're smiling, or tell myself a story. Can I just like maybe
Get
watch a real
this, are you ready
movie?
for this?
Okay, go.
Sorry, I interrupted you. um ART, it's called accelerated resolution therapy. It's a trauma treatment. It uses hypnosis essentially
Mhm.
to help people heal from trauma, and it works really quickly. But here's how it works. Ready? You go back to the trauma and you bring yourself with you. Like, you're already in the trauma, right? Because you experienced it, but you bring yourself now into the scene. And instead of you going through the trauma the way that it exactly happened, you choose the ending. So you instead like turn around and you tell that person, absolutely not, you are not going to talk to me like that, and whatever. And you make it end however you want. And you telling yourself that story helps resolve the trauma.
That makes so much sense. But okay, when you get yourself back to that thing, then the ending of it, do you really act it out? Like you act it out with your therapist? Like
You
let's
don't
say,
act it out, you imagine it.
oh,
Because your
and
brain doesn't know the difference between what you're imagining and what's actually happening, which is why we can get ourselves so worked up about jumping out of an airplane. What's actually happening right now is that I'm jumping out of an airplane with a tool attached to me that's going to rescue me. But what my brain says is you're dying. You're jumping out of this plane to your death. That's
Yeah.
what my brain says. So my brain is imagining that I'm going to die, but I'm not actually going to die because I have a parachute on. I mean, hopefully the parachute works, but that's the point. Anxiety is just us imagining a negative possibility. So hypnosis is us imagining something different and
Mhm.
changing it up.
Do you really start believing it? Do you start believing that ending is
You
different?
don't, I mean, you could start believing that. And some people have used hypnosis to implant false memories in people, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people think about things in a different way so that their body doesn't respond the same way. So, like, let's say that I was raped by a very tall white man with a beard. And now every time I see a very tall white man with a beard, I get freaked out. Like, I'm like, oh God, don't come near me. You know? So if I can resolve the trauma doing the hypnosis, then maybe
Oh,
I'm not going to react that way when I see a tall white man with a beard.
oh, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah. So because the body remembers your experience as well. And so the body is like alerting you, like, hey, there's a problem here. There's a problem
Mm.
here. But we can tell our body, oh, we don't have to be afraid of this thing. And we can do it consciously, but it doesn't work as well as when we're in a nice, relaxed, hypnotic state. It
So
works, it just takes longer.
you would have to either, so if someone wanted to do it and they didn't know how to get to it, or they couldn't afford one or whatever, you can do it. You could kind of do it while you're in a really calm state. Like, let's say you're meditating through it, and then you just play it over and over in your head. Like, you literally sit there and you have to just imagine it over and over your head. Or you could journal it and write down everything that happened and change the ending, right?
Yeah.
But it'll take longer. Or you could do it on mushrooms. Or you
Yeah.
could do it. So there's different ways of doing it. But I agree. I think hypnosis is a place where people go when it's hard for them to meditate. Because it's
Well,
so you can't get into the meditation state of mind.
yeah. There's meditation and hypnosis are really similar. The only difference is with meditation, the main goal is to try not to think about anything. And with hypnosis, you're imagining something for a specific purpose.
Oh.
So you can use your imagination in meditation too. Like, I can imagine myself on a beach in a hammock, and like that's my happy place, and that it makes me feel really good to be there, and then I can really just think about nothing because I have no concerns. I'm just on the beach hanging out. Or if I had a close encounter with a shark, I can also imagine myself at the beach and have a different experience and help myself not be so afraid to go to the beach.
And if it's that traumatizing to you, I really would recommend going to hypnosis, because there's a guide. That
Yeah.
person will guide you through it. And when it's too scary, because you kind of you have to get through the trauma. And I always see trauma like a tunnel, right? If you want to get to the other side, you can't go around it. You can't go over, you can't go under it. You have to go through the tunnel. Some tunnels are much scarier, much darker, much, whatnot, right? Has a bunch of speed bumps and whatnot. Some of the tunnels are shorter. So it just depends on your experience and how you see it, but you got to go through it to get to the other side. And when it comes to this hypnosis or these these traumas, you have to go through it like that. And I think having that person there for you when it's so scary, because I actually did hypnosis too, because I was, during the depression, I was trying everything. I literally I was just reaching in the dark, like, get me anything, throw everything against the wall. And he held my hand when I was crying.
Aww.
Yeah, it was really nice. I was crying so hard that when I got out of the hypnosis, my top of my shirt, like 4 inches down my shirt, was soaking wet. My
Aww.
Yeah. I was so sad. And he was holding my hand. He reached over and held my hand in the middle of it. I don't know when, but afterwards, he said, I didn't let go. I did not let go. So sometimes you need that guide when it's that traumatizing. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Because think about it as an investment to your happiness.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that's really crazy about how easily we can be manipulated is, okay, if we can focus too much on being sick, for example, and some people can genuinely make themselves sick because they focus so much on it, right? Like or, here's another example. My daughter gets so upset sometimes that she cries so hard she almost throws up. She gets so upset. She's like, I feel sick. Oh no. And I'm like, okay, because
Oh,
you're not breathing. You need to breathe. Let's breathe. And then,
oh,
whatever. So bottom line is we can make ourselves physically ill, right? With our anxiety or focusing too much on illness or whatever. We can make ourselves physically ill. There are people who make themselves fucking paralyzed. Like, what? It's just a psychological thing. They like psych themselves out and make themselves paralyzed. Okay. If we can do all of that with our minds and manipulate ourselves into those kind of states,
mm-hmm.
why can't we also help ourselves with our minds?
Mm.
There are many, many stories out there of people, and I would never, let me just preface this by saying I would never tell anybody not to go to the doctor or not to take medication. I would never ever say that. But there are people who have at least accelerated their healing process by doing hypnosis type techniques or Reiki, even. Like, people say that they can heal themselves through Reiki, and Reiki is not really different, in my opinion, from hypnosis, because it's imagining that I'm taking this tumor,
Energy.
let's say,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm dispersing it back out, and I'm letting it go from my body, and I'm welcoming healing energy into my body. So it's not that different. So like dancing generally makes us happy, right? So
Uh-huh.
if dancing makes us happy, why can't a thought that we have change something for us?
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree. Because even Oprah, right? Like big, really successful people. She grew up thinking she was just going to be a cleaning lady because her grandma was a cleaning lady, her mom was a cleaner, and and they were teaching her when she was older, when she was growing up. Oh, you got to learn how to be a cleaning lady. Like start washing clothes better, or start doing these because the better quality cleaning you do, then they'll keep you around. Look at her,
Mm,
billionaire. So at some point she manipulated herself to believe I'm way better than this.
yeah.
So
I
you
think you
just
and I talked about that personally once before, like how it's so sad that people don't realize they can really do anything.
yeah.
And we kind of talked about it last week too with Serrano. That was his name, right?
Yeah.
God. I'm really winning at life. Um yeah, but we were saying that the only thing that limits you is the way that you think about things. And this is why, because we can manipulate ourselves into a negative state of being, or we can manipulate ourselves into a positive state of being, and other people have an impact on us as well. So this is where things kind of get scary, because back in 2020, when we were talking about algorithms and fake news and all of that business, people were getting information from social media, and social media had an algorithm. So social media was showing them more of what they like. And then you get just one biased stream of information. And so that's where it becomes difficult. That's where it becomes important for us to seek out information that opposes what we have been taught, because otherwise we'll just continue to get fed the same stuff over and over.
And I think the baseline, the first question you just asked is, why do I believe this? Why does this make me happy? Why does this?
You're going back to the Wu Wang or Wu
Yeah,
Wei.
because someone needs to start somewhere. Because I'm trying
Yeah.
to think, if I was a listener, or when I was super sad, right? Why did I decide to choose a different story to listen to,
Mm,
right? Or why didn't I just stay with the sad story? Because Yolanda, I think Yolanda Van Zant, I think her name, Yolanda. You know her? She's
no.
she was on like OWN, and she's like this motivation speaker, and she says you'll be sick. You'll at some point you're gonna be sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah. Our
So,
discomfort motivates us.
yeah, and I feel like motivational change. There's another. I'm dropping a bunch of names right now. Warren Fort, I think his name, but he said, like change happens for two reasons. Something is so great that you can't not change, and something feels so painful that you cannot change.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I feel like a majority of change is when it feels so painful that you can't change. That you can't be like, I can't do this anymore, right? You get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And when you're there, just ask yourself, why is this making me so sad? And just ask those questions. I think that really is those baby steps. Why is this making me so sad? And it could be because I identified myself as, as a girlfriend to this person, and he broke up with me, and now I lost my identity. Or, you know, uh anything could be like, oh, I saw myself as a manager of this company for so long, and now they're booting me. So I'm sad because I was supposed to be this, I identified myself as this position. Or is it,
Mm,
so once you start realizing why is that position so important to you? Well, the position is important to me because people respect me. So if the position's taken away from you, that title is taken away from you, do people stop respecting you?
ooh, this is so good because this is getting into something that maybe we'll talk about another time, but how frequently we fantasize and the stories we tell ourselves about the way things should be. And
Mm,
basically anytime we
mm,
say the word should, we're fantasizing. We're talking about what it would be like in an ideal world. And like, I shouldn't have to wait in line this long. Why? Why shouldn't you have to wait in line this long? Are all these other people less important than you?
mm. I like that.
Isn't that
I'm gonna
kind of
put,
crazy?
yeah, it really, it completely makes sense, because there's a lot of times when I get mad and I go, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be going through. I don't deserve this, or whatever it is, right? It's like those moments that you could go back and go,
Or people shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. Or the government shouldn't do this or do that. Why? Why? But they do. That's the reality. People do. The government does. So the reality is, and I even hate to say this one, but like the reality is people die. People don't get to live forever. And that's horrible and it sucks and it's uncomfortable, but it's just reality. So when
"Mm."
we can't accept reality, that's a whole other topic.
I feel like it's all kind of related, right?
It
Expect
is.
impression, belief system, like the belief system of, especially when if your child, oh, God forbid, but if a person's child dies, it's like that person, my child shouldn't have
That's
passed.
not
I should
supposed to happen.
not supposed to happen. What should have happened was we grew up to old age, whatever. Like there's so many, I guess, shoulds, because we have rigid definitions of our lives, and it's crazy. And I also do blame, like, not blame, but our school system doesn't help that, because there's rules, right? It's like you get an A if you do this. What if, like let's say you're playing, you have four words, and it's automated, and it has, four letters, sorry, and it's like um COAT, and then it's scrambled up, right? And like, correct this word, and you go, oh, coat. It says coat. But what if you're Latino and you write taco? It's the same
Ah,
word, but if you put it on a Scantron, you're wrong.
yeah.
But it's still a word. I mean, like the schooling system makes you feel like you have to do it like this or you're a failure.
Mhm.
So we were brought up, pinning ourselves against each other, number one, but number two, following rules that they didn't explain why.
Mhm.
Why is the word coat more important than taco or
I
whatever, right?
personally like tacos better.
Too,
I'm
me
just
too.
saying. But no, you make a good point, and I think a lot of our beliefs are based on our norms. And I know for myself, I grew up in very white West Virginia, and moving to Florida, I was like, "Oh my God, it's so multicultural down here." Like, I went to USF and there was a lot of there were like cliques of Indian people and like a bunch of Spanish people, but like different kinds of Latinos, like Puerto Rican or um Guatemalan or whatever. So, and they were all in like different cliques. But it was all very interesting to me because I had never met people from other nationalities, and it was
Really?
my first like
All this?
exposure kind of. Like I mean, I think I met like a few Spanish people, but like not a lot, and a few people of color, but not a lot. I mean, it was mostly very white West Virginia small town living.
Who was your first Asian friend?
Oh gosh, my first Asian friend. Well, I had an Indian friend who called herself Asian, and I was like, "You're not Asian." She was like, "It's the same continent." Uh, I don't know. I have to really think of maybe you. I don't know. I've had Asian clients, Asian friends. Yeah,
Because
probably
you
not a lot.
literally really were in this super monocultural place.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was, as you know, also I was raised very religiously, so I knew that pretty well. I knew the rules anyway of what our religion was, but I didn't know a whole lot about other religions and ways that other people believed. So really like moving down here and going to college was a whole new experience for me, and it opened my mind to all different kinds of ways of being. Oh, even gay people, there was not really any gay people when I was growing up. Like
Hmm.
there probably were gay people, but they were probably closeted because,
Oh,
we
the backlash of what your city would do to this person. How
yeah.
sad.
And I do remember my first gay friend.
Ah!
I was like 19, probably. Um, but it was a whole game changer for me because I was like, wait a second. There's all kinds of other things out here that are different from how I was raised. And I think that's very important for all of us to recognize and try to understand. And it's not easy to continuously challenge our belief systems, but or at least try to understand other people's belief systems. You know,
Yeah.
that's the minimum.
Yeah. And like just kind of summing everything up. So really it's that expectation effect, and the book is written by David Robson. And it says how your mindset can change your world. And it's so if we just took responsibility of our own happiness and decided, hey, I'm not going to paint this picture of I'm not going to paint my victim picture. I'm not going to paint the sad picture. I'm not going to use these colors anymore. I'm going to use bright colors. I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to believe it even if I don't believe it. And that helps when you put those post-its on your mirror. People put like, oh, I am beautiful, I am loved, I can do this, I am capable. Let's say
What
those are
I what I tell my clients is, do you believe it's a possibility that it's true?
oh
If it's a possibility that it's true, then we can hone in on that and focus on it instead of focusing on the possibility that my life's always going to be like this or good things don't happen to me. Focusing on those things doesn't do anything for us. So if it's a possibility that other people see me as beautiful, then I can tell myself and believe that I am beautiful. Maybe not to myself and maybe not to everyone, but to some people, I am beautiful.
I
And so
love
then I can say that and believe it.
Yeah, if even if you start out, is there a 0.01% possibility that you are, and we're just using example, beautiful, that you are beautiful? You, if that person's like, no, it's, God, you must be really depressed. You 0.01%, buddy.
Has anyone ever told you that you looked nice?
Yeah.
Is it a possibility that that person was telling the truth?
Yeah.
These are the ways that we have to think about it in the beginning.
And those things really help. And it's honestly, it's free too, right? So that's why I wanted to say you don't have to spend a whole bunch of money, because we talked about hypnosis and it's probably like $170 a session. So if you don't want to cough up that in the beginning or ever, then there are other ways, you know?
Oh, there's a million hypnosis on YouTube, by the way. And when I was trained in hypnosis, they told us it's pointless to do hypnosis on someone who isn't going to practice it on their own. So I just tell people, go on YouTube. Just go on
Oh,
YouTube.
so they told you it's pointless if they're not going to practice on their own? Really? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
because the effects of hypnosis aren't everlasting. So it really needs to become a habit and something that you practice on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah. And those habits, I guess what 30 days to form a habit, but those habits become your beliefs, right? So like that post-it, I am strong, I am beautiful, I am smart, I'm capable, whatever, right? It's free for you. Why not spend 2 minutes? Not even 2 minutes. It literally is like 10 seconds. Read that to you in the morning when you see the mirror, when you're brushing your teeth. Ideally, you brush your teeth in the morning. Or I highly recommend you do, please. Before before you bed, you read those forward to you. It takes seconds out of your day. And if that could change your life, why not invest seconds of your day? Seconds.
This is good. This is good stuff. You know what? You're welcome, everyone.
High five.
High five. Great work, Julie. That was beautiful. No, I do really appreciate how you always say, what can the listeners do and what can we give them that's free? And I think that that's beautiful. You can't help yourself but want to help people.
We want to help.
Yes, that's true. We
Because it brings happiness. We selfish too.
are so selfish. We all are. It's okay. It's all right. We'll get through it together.
Yes. I can't talk about this. So there's so many topics now that came spawn this. I can't wait to update you guys soon.
All right. Talk to you soon, guys.
Bye.